As we've discussed earlier, we mentioned in the Haggadah, Keneged Arba Banim, there are 4 sons. We have the wise son, the Chacham, the Rasha, the wicked son, the Tam, the simple son, and the Eino Yodea Lishol, the child who does not know how to ask. But why, as we asked before, only 4 sons? Couldn't we have mentioned more character types, more personalities? Why only these 4? The answer is found right in the Haggadah. The Baal Haggadah tells us actually that Keneged Arba Banim, parallel to the 4 sons, Dibra Torah, the Torah spoke about. So the Baal Haggadah is telling us that in the Torah we find the 4 sons. The Baal Haggadah, the author of the Haggadah, did not make up the 4 sons. He didn't just come up with this random idea that there are 4 sons, but rather there are 4 sons which we see in the Torah itself. Well, where is that found? Well, let's have a look. So here we are, and when we look in the Torah, we actually find, fascinatingly enough, that the Torah 4 times mentions the idea of a father speaking to his son about Yetziat Mitzrayim. The first one is found in Shmot Perek Yudbet, and there we have, where we see, Vahaya, and it will be, Ki Yomru Aleichem B'nechem, when your children will say to you. So there's your children saying to you, and you're going to talk about Pesach. Right over here it talks about Pesach. That's the first time. And then in the next parak, Shmot Yud Gimel, we find 2 references. Right here you find V'higadata le bincha, where again you're talking to your child, and here again about B'tseiti mi Mitzrayim. So we're talking about Mitzrayim. A little later on in the same parak, we have again V'haya ki yishalcha bincha. Again, your child asking you, the 3rd reference to a ben. And in Dvarim, Perek Vav, the 4th time, Ki yishalcha bincha, when your child will ask you, Machar la'imar, and again you tell him about Avadim Hayinu, we were slaves to Paro in Mitzrayim. So you find right here in the Torah actually 4 times the Torah mentions talking to a son, and therefore the Baal Haggadah came up with a simple idea that the Torah is talking about 4 different sons. But the great question is, okay, we see 4 sons, but who told the author of the Haggadah that these 4 sons refer to a Chacham, Rasha, Tam, and Eino Yodea Lishol, the wise, wicked, simple, or son who does not ask? Maybe it's all wise sons. Are there any hints in the Mikra, in the text of the Torah itself, that let us know that one is a Chacham, one is a Rasha, etc.? Well, let's take a look, and actually we'll find something very, very interesting. So what we're going to do now is look at these 4 different sources that are found in the Torah that talk about a son asking, and what we're going to see very, very clearly, that at least in 3 out of the 4, it's crystal clear which type of child you're talking about. We're going to start with the one on bottom, the one from Dvarim Perek Vav. And there, let's see what the child has to say. Here we go. Ki yishalcha bincha, when your child will ask you, machar, tomorrow, in the morrow, lemor, saying. And look what he asks. He says, ma ha'edot, what are the testimonies, v'hachukim, and the statutes, v'hamishpatim, and the laws. Which means this child is seeing things with differences. He discerns that not all the laws are the same. There are certain things that are, as we said, edot, there are certain things that are testimony, that there are things that are chukim, that are statutes without known reasons. There are things that are mishpatim, which are laws that are easy to understand why. He understands that quite a bit here, and he's able to have what we call bina, which comes from the word bain, to understand differences between things. Obviously a wise son. So therefore the Baal Haggadah looks at this source, again found in Dvarim Perek Vav, and he says that must be talking about what type of son? That must be talking about a wise son. So easy to understand that the one in Dvarim, we are talking about a son that is a Chacham. If we continue on, let's go to the next now, and we're going to go on to the next son, and here we're going to talk about a son. We're going to go just the one right on top in Shmot Yud Gimel Pasuk Yudalet. And here we have Vahaya ki yishalcha bincha machar le'imor. So here again, your child, same words, almost exactly as we have before in Dvarim. Ki yishalcha bincha machar le'imor. But look what he says differently here. Instead of ma'idot v'achukim, he has a two-word question. Mazot. Hey, Dad, what's happening, man? Right? What's going on? So here all of a sudden, this is not the chacham that we talked about before, who talked about edot and chukim and mishpatim. Rather, we're talking about a child who has a very simple two-word question, ma zot. Hey, Dad, what's going on? So you look at this, very, very different than the son below. And therefore the Baal Haggadah looks at this son, and he says, this probably is talking about a tam, a very simple son. A simple son who asks a simple question, ma zot. So pretty easy to see. One, you have the chacham asking the complicated question, the deep question, the analytical question, and here are the tam who asked the simpler question of mazot. If we go one above, we see something interesting happening here in Shemot Perek Yud Gimel Pasuk Chet, and here it says V'higadata lebincha. Now, if you just realize, wait a second, the other two sources began with Vahaya ki yishalcha bincha, and here again in Dvarim, ki yishalcha bincha, when your child will ask you. Here, what's obviously missing is a question. It just says v'higadata lebincha. You tell your child, what was the question? Answer, says the Baal Haggadah, the author of the Haggadah, there was no question here. Why not? Because this is a ben she'eno yodea lishol. So therefore the Haggadah, Baal Haggadah comes and says, well, this one must be the she'eno yodea lishol. This is a child who simply does not know how to ask, and therefore there is no question. So these are pretty simple. Pretty simple that here you have a chacham asking the complicated analytical question. Here you have the tam who asks the very simple two-word mazot, what's up, right? And here you have the she'ino yodea lishol, because the Torah doesn't even have a question here. That's pretty obvious. What's going to be fascinating is when we turn now to the last source, which is actually the first one in the Torah, the one over here in Shemot Perek Yud Bet, this source over here. And in this source over here, well, we can cheat, and we know by process of elimination that this is talking about the Rasha. And here it's going to get very, very interesting, and we're going to ask, how in the world did the Baal Haggadah know that this refers to a Rasha, a son who is the wicked son? Who told him that that's true? Where did we see somewhere here that he talks about being, he says something that says, oh my gosh, this is really a wicked son? Where do we see that in his words? So if we analyze his words, well, let's have a look. He says, V'haya ki yomru aleichem b'neichem, it will be ki yomru when your children say to you, ma ha'avoda hazot lachem. See, here's really the question, these four words. Ma ha'avoda hazot lachem. Okay, he says to you, what is this service for you? What is it for you? And that seems to be a pretty, innocuous question. That's a Rasha talking. Where did the Baal Haggadah see this as a Rasha? And let's have a look what the Baal Haggadah tells you, how you answer him, which is also fascinating. So here we are again with the psukim by the Rasha, and let's have a look at at what the Rasha says. And the Rasha says, as we mentioned before, Ma'avoda azot lachem, and these are the words that really seem to bother us. And this time we're going to throw in something here. Let's look what the Baal Haggadah has to say about this. The Baal Haggadah mentions in the Haggadah Shel Pesach, he quotes again Rasha Mahu Omer, what does the Rasha say? And he quotes exactly like the Torah said, Ma ha'avoda hazot lachem. But what bothers us about those words? What is this service for you? And the word avoda doesn't mean hard work. The avoda means service to Hashem. We talk about Torah, avoda, and gemilut chasadim. Avoda is not a dirty word. So what does it mean, avoda? What's wrong with that? So if you look at the Haggadah seems to be bothered by this last word, this word lachem. What's this service to you? Because look what the Baal Haggadah says. He says, lachem velo lo. It's to you the work, but not to him. So, at least in the author of the Haggadah seems to be telling us that what's bothering us is this word of ma ha'avoda hazot. That's okay. but you threw in the word lachem. Oh boy. And then he goes to town, he dances on the head of the Rasha, right? And since he removed himself from the group, kafar beikar, it's as if he denied God, etc., etc., etc. And so definitely that's what bothers the Baal Haggadah, this idea of that he used the word lachem. But what difficult to understand is, why would you say that just because he said the word lachem, what's the service to you, that all of a sudden means, oh, that's to you, not to me? In fact, if you look at the Chacham also used a similar word. When the Chacham spoke, he said, what are the statutes, etc., that God commanded? Etchem, a very, very similar word. Etchem, he commanded you. So what's bothering us is that word, then the Rasha using the word lachem, and that's what got him into trouble when he uses it here in the Pasuk. Why is the Chacham's usage of a similar word not also problematic? And perhaps the answer is found not so much in the word of lachem or etchem. What bothers us is that we happen to know that when the Rasha is asking, he's not asking a question, a simple question, what is the service to you? Like the Chacham asks, what's it to you? That's fine. To you, he's including himself. What makes us know that the Rasha is not asking an innocent question, but rather an attitude-laden question, perhaps is the fact that in the Chacham, he asks, Ki shalcha bincha. But if you look at the Rasha, it's Ki yomru aleichem b'neichem. When your children will tell you, oh, he's not asking, he's telling me, that's a problem. So now we can well understand that the Rasha is very different than the Chacham, than the Tam, in that he's the only one who does not ask a question. Ma ha'avoda azot lachem, what is the service to you? He's not asking, Yomru aleichem. It's ma ha'avoda hazot lachem. It's a statement, it's a challenge. It's a rejection of the avoda, of the service. And therefore it's no wonder that the Baal Haggadah tells us, lo achem v'lo lo, this was not a question. He doesn't want to know anything. He's making a statement that he has no part in this avoda. He has no chelek in the avoda of the Korban Pesach, of the service of the Korban Pesach. Hotzi atzmo min haklal, he has excluded himself from Klal Yisrael.